You're watching CW Montana. This is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us on your Thursday. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Tonight across the state, sports betting in Montana now has an official name and rules. We'll have the details in just a bit. Plus, Whitefish Energy still waiting on a $130 million payment for its efforts to restore power in Puerto Rico. But first, in Great Falls, a young boy is dead and 3 people are now facing charges of deliberate homicide. Those suspects include the child's parents, who also have felony convictions out of Yellowstone County. The parents, Emilio Renova and Stephanie Byington, are both charged with deliberate homicide, child endangerment, and assault on a minor. Byington has been previously convicted of felony child endangerment, and Renova convicted for aggravated assault and robbery. Now, Rasco Birdtail, an acquaintance of both, is also behind bars on charges of deliberate homicide and tampering with evidence. Now, Great Falls police tell us that emergency dispatchers responded to an apartment complex around 9 a.m. yesterday. Responders performed CPR on the little boy, but he died at the scene. Details are limited at this time, but we do know his name was Antonio. Tonight, all 3 suspects are held in the Cascade County Detention Center, each on a $500,000 bond. And some heartbreaking news about a young Whitefish girl. The family of 6-year-old Jordana, who was hit by a vehicle as she was exiting the school bus last week, says an MRI reveals that her brain has widespread brain damage. Her neurologist described it as extreme shaken baby syndrome. Her aunt says if Jordana wakes up, she will need long-term care. An account has been set up at Whitefish Credit Union in Jordana's name to help with medical care. Charges are still pending against the driver as authorities wait for toxicology results. Well, 2 juvenile suspects are now charged for the violent break-in and brutal killing of around 30 fish at the National Fish Hatchery in Ennis. Now, the incident, as we reported, happened in late October, and the Madison County Sheriff's Office tells us after MTN News spread the word, tips led them to the 2 suspects. Both suspects are non-Madison County residents. Each is charged with felony aggravated cruelty to animals and 2 misdemeanors. Well, a scary situation for some Billings bus passengers as a man hijacked a city bus today and took it on a ride from downtown Billings to the Billings Heights. Officers arrested 28-year-old Diavonta Belton, who police say drove the bus away from the transit center just after noon. Met Transit buses can be tracked, and law enforcement was able to stop the bus within 5 minutes. Now, 2 passengers on board were not injured and the bus was not damaged. The driver was taking a break and, as per protocol in this cooler weather, let the passengers stay on the bus. And that's when Belton allegedly took the bus. Well, Billings police tell us Belton faces felony theft, 2 counts of unlawful restraint, possession of drug paraphernalia, and several other traffic offenses. Well, tonight, the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office is asking for your help to locate a missing hunter. 53-year-old Sean O'Brien was last seen on Tuesday, November 19th at the town pump in Eureka. That was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Authorities report that O'Brien, who has medical issues, was believed to be driving from Eureka to his home in Troy. He's described as a white male with a scruffy gray beard and shoulder-length silver hair. He was last seen wearing hunting attire. Now, anyone with information is asked to contact the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. Montana Highway Patrol Trooper Wade Palmer is continuing his miraculous recovery after being ambushed and shot 3 times last March. And today, it was smiles and tears of joy as the Highway Patrol honored the men and women who helped save him. MTN's Katie Miller was there.
On March 15th, Trooper Wade Palmer was shot in the head, face, and neck in an incident that killed 2 people. 8 months later, he is now able to stand and walk with the help of a trekking pole, and he can say a few words. Here, he poses with his wife and colleagues from the Montana Highway Patrol. On Thursday, the Montana Highway Patrol held an award ceremony for law enforcement officers who assisted Trooper Wade Palmer. It was an emotional day for some as they remembered the night of the shooting. Colonel Butler says he will never forget what hospital staff said to him. He says he wasn't sure if Palmer could pull through. Now, he's amazed to see him in such good condition.
For me personally, it's wonderful. I'll never forget the conversation I had with the neurologist. St. Pat's the night this happened, and to see him walking today is amazing all the way around.
The ceremony honored law enforcement officers who responded to the shooting and who have assisted Palmer with his road to recovery. Officers from CSKT, the Missoula Police Department, and the Missoula County Sheriff's Office were presented with awards. Sergeant Sean Finley received an award from the Montana Attorney General.
It was an award for doing what I'm supposed to do, take care of my people.
Finley helped coordinate travel plans and visited the Palmers while Wade was in the hospital in Utah. Now he helps the family with recovery.
This command has been phenomenal in the backing of us here at a district level and us taking care of Wade, which is what we're supposed to do. They're relentless in their support of us.
Colonel Butler says the interagency support during this process has been amazing.
It's just kind of ingrained in all of us that when somebody's having a bad day, everybody else comes out to help. And we all know we'll get to return the favor somewhere along the way.
In Missoula, Katie Miller, MTN News.
Thanks, Katie. Now, Trooper Palmer's wife, Lindsay, says they recently returned from an evaluation in Colorado, and Wade is responding well to a new communication app. Well, you may remember Whitefish Energy, the Montana company whose contract to restore power in hurricane-ravaged Puerto Rico caused a media and political firestorm. But 2 years later, Whitefish Energy says it is still trying to get paid for the extensive work it did complete. MTN's Mike Dennison has that story.
In the wake of Hurricane Maria in September 2017, Whitefish Energy was the first major contractor hired by Puerto Rico's Power Authority to repair the island's devastated electrical grid. Yet the contract was canceled a month later under political pressure after critics questioned its award and suggested then Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke of Montana had something to do with it. Whitefish Energy and its subcontractors worked for another month in Puerto Rico and say they repaired more than 50 transmission towers and 200 miles of power lines. But CEO Andy Tekmansky says the company is still owed nearly $130 million for that work.
It's all but destroyed my business. We were carrying so much debt right now. We can't maneuver. We can't afford to grow. We have this reputation, stigma around us that won't be cleared up until we get paid and say, hey, look, we're good guys.
It can't get the money because the Federal Emergency Management Agency still hasn't approved a reimbursement to the Puerto Rican Power Authority. FEMA officials told MTN they're reviewing documents in the 2-year-old case. Tekmansky also said he's asked Montana's congressional delegation for help, to no avail. The office of Senator Steve Daines says it's monitoring the situation, and Senator John Tester's office says it has pressed FEMA to be more transparent about the process. Zinke told MTN News he had absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the contract and that the media criticism was part of a political smear. Whitefish Energy, while a small company, had experience repairing power lines in difficult terrain, and Tekmansky had worked in Puerto Rico earlier in his career. He says he contacted Puerto Rican power officials a week before the hurricane hit and pitched his company's services. He also notes that officials from FEMA and a power company that took over the work on Puerto Rico after his company left were charged in September with fraud and bribery, but that investigations found no wrongdoing by his company for its work.
So we're the last man standing. We're the ones that never got implicated in anything because we conduct an ethical business.
Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
And you can see Mike Dennison's full report on Whitefish Energy and its contract on your local MTN website. Well, sports betting in Montana now has official rules and a name, Sports Bet Montana. The Montana Lottery revealing that name and the final restrictions just today. The rules only allow sports betting at businesses with gambling operator licenses, such as taverns and casinos. Players will be able to bet in person at licensed facilities or create sports wagering accounts with the state to bet using electronic devices. Now, players can also set account limits on spending, deposits, and time spent. The Montana Lottery anticipates it will accept applications from sales agents wishing to offer sports wagering by the end of the year. Now, no official kickoff date has been set for Sports Bet Montana. Well, you can bet a new $10 million grant will help improve health outcomes for pregnant and postpartum women in rural Montana. The new 5-year federal grant will support a new program called Montana Obstetric and Maternal Support, or MOMS. The program will utilize Billings Clinic's Project ECHO to connect OBGYN experts to rural providers and offer simulation education via telemedicine and mobile sim lab trucks. Well, MOMS will also establish medication-assisted treatment for pregnant and parenting women battling addiction. Now, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says Montana has the 6th highest maternal mortality ratio in the nation, with rural and Native American communities at the highest risks.
The beauty of it is there's an infrastructure in place in many communities. So we're utilizing existing systems when we can. And our goal is that people have a successful pregnancy and successful outcome, whether you're in Billings or whether you're in Bighorn County.
Well, right now, more than half of Montana's counties do not have an OB or nurse practitioner providing maternal health care. The MOMS program is expected to launch in early 2020. Well, the Montana Department of Livestock has confirmed a case of terrestrial rabies found in a skunk in the Missoula area. Now, the animal was captured on September 18th when a resident called animal control reporting abnormal behavior. There are no known cat, dog, or human exposures. However, the Montana Department of Livestock has issued a 60-day county-wide quarantine for dogs, cats, and ferrets that have not been vaccinated within the last 28 days. Now, this is the first case of rabies in Missoula County since 2015. Well, there's still another summer of disruption ahead, but the second season of restoration at the historic St. Ignatius Mission is being called a great success. The multi-year effort to save the 58 murals painted on the walls and ceilings of the historic church over a century ago just passed the halfway point. This summer's work included removing the scaffolding that's been at the head of the chapel. In some cases, the primary murals above the altar had sagged as much as 2 feet off the wall. But the plaster has now been lifted back in place and is once again displaying the various gospel stories.
They're workers, but they're really artists. I mean, there's art, you know, it's just incredible the amount of stuff they can do, the talent, the way they can bring back plaster alive again and restore a building that's 125 plus years old to what it was when it was originally painted.
Going to be gorgeous. A third year of restoration is planned next year and will focus on the gospel medallions that line the highest part of the building. Still to come on your 9 o'clock news, nearly every holiday has a few jingles attached to it, except for Thanksgiving. But that's about to change thanks to one Great Falls man. But first, Bob, how's the weather looking?
Well, Jeanelle, it was a beautiful day across all of Montana, mostly sunny skies. Temperatures were a little cool, but they are starting to improve a little bit. But wait until next week on travel week for Thanksgiving. It's getting much worse. We'll chat about it after the break.